Apologize for not being here for the last meeting. Got pretty much filled in. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, taking over kind of last minute. Not a lot of notice, but I didn't want to share COVID with everybody. I didn't think that was appropriate. Yeah, you do not want it. But I do recommend the meds. They do work. Anyway, so call the meeting to order at 5 on the dot. Pretty close to it. On Thursday, October 17th. The public comment guidelines. Who do we have online? Anybody?
No.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
And if we do have somebody that joins us, I will read that comment out loud, but at this point I won't. We have a quorum. I'm going to ask for introduction, starting with Linda, please.
Linda Barrett, clerk.
Thank you.
John Markowski, resident of Bridgeport and Workforce Investment Board member.
Tricia Allen, ACSD rep.
Steve Borzak, ACSD rep and vice chair.
Rebecca Goulet, business manager.
Yes.
Michael Giorgio, ACSD rep.
Kim Farnham, let's see, member at large from the Mount Abraham District and chairperson of the board.
Dan Rosignol,
Hey, girl. Good job.
resident of Addison, representing Addison Northwest at large.
Wendy
Sharon,
Pratt.
just go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll get you settled.
I'm Sharon Meacham. I forgot where I was.
You were in Colchester earlier. Yeah,
I was. Workforce Investment Board member.
I'm sorry, Wendy.
It's okay. Wendy Pratt, Assistant Director here at the Career Center.
Nicole McTavish, Superintendent and Director here.
And over at our communication experts, if you'd introduce yourselves.
Shannon Thurber, executive assistant.
Dan Callahan, IT manager.
Thank you. And we have a new faculty member here, I think is appropriate for automotive.
Woo!
My name is Charles Grant, the accounting shop. I was asked earlier, what my background is 25 plus years in the auto industry as repair and 16 years auto tech education. So I'm pretty excited to be part of the team, really. I hear really good things about it. I believe in the program. I believe in hands-on trade. And hopefully, I'm hoping it's going to be a really good fit.
You came over from North End?
Yes, north, yes, yeah.
Thank you.
North, yeah. North Center, so.
Just to let you know. Welcome.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And I signed his
Thank you.
contract, so you can.
And Chuck, after we do
Anyway,
your,
and Rebecca, do you want to introduce?
Sure.
She'll do the presentation a little bit later.
It's Renee Kite from MCL Leasing. She's here to do a presentation about perhaps getting some information and education to the board about leasing programs for some of our upcoming needs.
Awesome. Thank you.
and Chuck, once you're introduced, although you are of course welcome to stay, you do not have to stay.
Yeah.
People generally don't.
Feel free.
Okay.
If
Okay.
you fall asleep, it's okay. So looking at the agenda in front of you, I need a motion to approve that agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Judge. A second,
Second.
Dan. And any questions, comments, additions, something we need to pull that? Yeah. So seeing none, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion passes, Linda. Thank you. So a second motion to approve the September 26 meeting minutes, which was a link. I need Dan to move in a second. Thank you, Sharon. Any questions? Things that weren't right? Linda, anything on there that, no, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, passing that motion, please say aye or raise your hand. Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. You okay?
I was gonna ask if you would abstain.
If I would abstain? Okay, I'll keep my hand up. Does that? Thank you. I was there in spirit. only. Any comments or questions about any rest of the agenda?
There was a question on stand-up board committee. Is that like one of those paddleboard things?
No,
No.
it might be required for that committee, but we'll,
Okay.
we'll talk about it when we get to it.
Okay,
How's that?
all right, yeah, I just didn't, I had no idea when I saw that.
That's okay.
Okay,
All right, thank you. So the consent agenda, monthly account payable, there was a link for that. Any comments regarding any of those pieces on the agenda? Need explained? Now, my question with this is, D, personnel items, we want to address that separately? Or, okay, we can do that. So I need a motion to pass the consent agenda as listed.
So moved.
Thank you, Tricia, and just second it. All's in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, the consent agenda passes. Under personnel items, Nicole, do you want to talk about
Yes.
or explain that situation? Thank you.
So the board may recall that we had Patrick McMullen hired to be our auto teacher. I think it was at the last board meeting. But a couple of days before he was to arrive, he called and let us know he was not coming. So since the board had already actually approved his hire, we now, even though he never actually worked here, you still need to approve his resignation. And you had the opportunity to meet Charles, goes by Chuck, who is our new auto teacher. We are extremely excited about Chuck. His resume is in your packet, so you can take a look there, but he has a huge amount of both industry experience as well as teaching experience in CTE, and also is a performance motorcycle racer, if I understand correctly.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I think
No
that, Chuck's
Don't
going to
get
be
hurt.
very engaging to the kids, for sure. So we would like to go ahead and approve his hire. He was in signing paperwork today. I believe your start date is in 2 weeks?
Yes.
Yes, 2 weeks.
So I'm going to take those two separately. So I need a motion for the first resignation of Patrick McMullen.
So moved.
second it.
Second it, again. Any questions from anybody? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Two. Anybody object? Seeing none, the motion passes. Second is the hire for Charles. We've been introduced to. Do you have any questions for him about anything on his resume? Doesn't sound like anybody does. I need a motion for that, to hire him. Tricia put her little pinky up. Okay. And Judd seconded it with, I saw the mask move. Okay.
Thanks for coming on board so quickly. That's a heck of a replacement turnaround time. Well done. I don't know how you swung that, but well done.
Well, she did explain it was through the welding instructor.
Oh, oh, that was in the report.
So important things like that. But anyway, any questions for Charles? Seeing none, so the new hire, anybody all in favor of that, please either raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's official.
Welcome, yes.
Yay!
Action items. So stand-up board committee, which I was told was the sort of title that Christina, I don't know where it came from, but at the last meeting.
It was, the item is to stand up a board committee. So we'll work on language in the future, but I maybe would invite one of the board members who was at that meeting. Mike, you want to talk about this? This is the board norms and goals meeting that you were at.
Yeah, so I think we are hoping that we'll do sort of long-term, we'll kind of be planning an evaluation. I think in the beginning, we're just going to kind of make sure we've got the norms correct for what we're doing, make sure that we're doing things correctly, following the correct process and stuff like that. I think once we get that approved, we're gonna look at a couple different boards from couple different schools or, things around the state and then one outside of the state, just to kind of do a little evaluation, make sure there's nothing that we're kind of missing. I think it's a good group. If anybody wants to be a part of that, I think obviously that'd be, there's a more the merrier to some extent, so.
So I understand that Christine's going to put together a charter for that particular committee, and obviously she's traveling right now, so it hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure forthwith. And she did the same thing for Jen, so her experience will help along the way, along with our conversation we had with Judy a couple months ago, and just getting some sort of direction about what we need. Some of those things were kind of missing from our board through the years, and been on here a long time, and I don't recall ever having any of them. So I think it's a good place to start and give us some more uniformity in systems and things that we need as a board. We need to take a motion to establish that committee, I assume. Do we need that charter before we do that? I wonder.
That's your call. I think Christina had planned to do it, but then couldn't be here tonight.
Right.
So we'll have the actual charter at the next
I think you
meeting.
already met too, so that to me is, showing that we have a commitment to it. And did some training and someone prior to that. So I think I just would like a motion to be able to establish that committee. And membership is Christina.
It's in the packet.
Yeah,
Christina, Dan, Bill, Kim, Nicole.
and Nicole.
I believe it's called Board Norms and Goals.
Yes, thank you. Committee.
That was the tentative name. Yeah, we kind of hope to settle on something.
Well, you could say paddleboard, whatever you're doing.
Stand up at a paddleboard.
I love it.
Christine will be like, huh?
Kayak club.
Really? So,
I'm not sure if it's just a uniqueness in ACSD, but the chair convenes committees. It's not necessary for the board to vote on them. Is that different here?
It's new.
Okay.
I think, some of us have been here for a while and understand the need for it. But I think at the same time, I'm not a top-down manager. That's not something I like to see. I like the input from the board. I think it's important that everybody have their voice, I guess is the word for it. And Christina's expertise, she stepped forward to do this, and I was really happy to see that happen with her experience. So
It wasn't so much about the discussion. It was like, is it necessary to have it as a board action?
She definitely felt like it was necessary for us to be able to.
Because of what the
Thank you.
mandate is.
Yeah.
Kind of want to buy
Because we're
the
gonna,
board to
vote on it.
yeah, because we're gonna make
Yeah.
recommendations and possible changes to actually how the board functions, right? It was trying to make sure.
That was my understanding, yeah. So
Makes sense.
if that answers what you're looking for. Again, I need a motion. I would like
Can we do that? Or
Yeah,
can we
sure.
not?
And a second from Dan. All right, any other conversation, questions, thoughts? And obviously that committee is evolving. That's another piece that's important when you have that for input from everybody. So, if you agree, raise your hand, say aye.
Hi.
Anybody object to our conversation or what it's about? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you. So, superintendent's report, which of course she puts out every Friday.
So
You
just,
get a chance
just,
to read it.
that's right. We work real hard to put that out, so
I'm
hopefully
sure
you
there's a
enjoy
lot
it.
of effort in that. Yes, it's very well done.
There are also a couple things I just wanted to update the board with. We have, for a number of reasons, it was time to do an org chart. So you have an org chart in your packet. And these things are always kind of living documents. They change as personnel change, but this is how we currently are. And we actually provide that as part of our accreditation report too. So it was a dual purpose document for us today. We're also gonna talk today about leasing in just a little bit, about the possibility of leasing perhaps some vehicles or some other things. I again want to put a plug in that at some point we're gonna really have to have a long discussion, a more focused discussion about a possible bond run. We have a roof which is failing at North Campus, and they tell us that once it starts to fail, it goes fairly fast. It's one of those flat membrane type roofs, and that's going to be in excess of $500,000 undoubtedly. And so we're going to really need to talk about that. And then also, I just wanted to give a huge kudos. So this morning, I'm on the board of the Addison County Economic Development Council, and they do, at the end of each meeting, they do a go around. And Dave Castle from Mechanical Advantage is on that board. and spent a good 5 minutes talking about how impressed he was about our manufacturing program and the change that has happened since the last year and with our new instructor and the upgrades to modern technology and the kinds of instruction and soft skills and the robots and the drones and the precision manufacturing and the CNC machines. He just went on and on. It was just a really good testament of a local partner and somebody who's doing really well in industry, saying that what we're doing is the right thing for industry. So I passed that on to Dan Ahrensmeyer today. He was tickled to have somebody praise him, and I just wanted to pass it on to the board too.
John?
Is that large, or in part, the result of the large grant that came through that allowed the upgrade and the updating of the?
Correct. Correct.
Wonderful.
So at the open house, I got to tour and talk to Dan. If you have not been in that lab, or if you have been in that lab 10 years ago
Yeah.
and go in there today, it looks like a totally different space. I mean, it was like all the blue and silver, machine shop kind of stuff, and most of that's gone. And I was talking to him about it, and he was like, "Yep, we make this one project on those machines to show people how to do it by hand, but we just don't do that anymore." And they don't do that anymore pretty much in industry, which kind of puts us up on a ledge, overlooking what used to be. So it was just it's pretty eye-opening to tour that and talk to him. So.
And all of his students have earned their FAA drone operator's license. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which you have to get, from what I understand, and permission to where you fly it, how close you are to an airport, all those pieces are going.
So that's it.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is appropriate time, but, and I just have a question and
Yes,
we can answer. So what is happening with Mike Adams' position?
Oh, good question. So we have posted it. It's very challenging to hire special education staff of any kind. And also mid-year, most people have a contract.
Yeah.
So we have it posted, and we have it posted until filled. Probably we won't get anybody. Right now we have some applications, but none of them have any special education credentials or background. So we wouldn't be moving forward with those. We're going to post it as if it's fresh right after Christmas break, because that's when educators often start looking for next year positions. So we'll do that too. And in the interim, I'm acting as a special education coordinator. I have a background in special education. I was a special ed director. So I have the content knowledge. And quite frankly, Wendy carried the torch for counseling last year, so it's definitely my turn.
I didn't argue.
Yeah.
You didn't fight.
So I'm taking that role until we have somebody in it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nicole? Seeing none, business manager report.
Just linked to the agenda, just a couple of things, wanted to give you an update on the line of credit. We have sort of to draw on that, I'll be drawing again on Monday for $650,000 to cover the bond payment. It's due November 1st, which is required to be in the bond bank 7 days ahead of time, so we'll be drawing on that. Just update, kind of timely, bus number 5 lost its transmission last week. The bus is a 2006. And it's estimated to be between $6,000 and $8,000 for a transmission and other things that may need to be repaired for the bus to be inspected. So it's kind of on the back burner right now. It's a lot of money to put in a vehicle that's 20 years old. We have an unfunded mandate to think about, and hopefully we can talk about it at committee levels if we go that way. We have to do some radon testing by the end of this school year. Alan has worked getting some quotes. The first quote we got was for $9,500, which is not budgeted this year. So maybe something we can talk about using the building and equipment reserve fund or something like that. And we do have until June 30th to get it done. We're just trying to get our ducks in a row because it might be a mad scramble at the end. The testing is actually not very invasive. They would come in after school was out. They basically they look like envelopes, 2 in each room. And they leave them there for 48 hours and they come back and take the envelopes out when no one's after school. So it's not noisy or invasive, and then we would get a report. So it's something to look forward to. Good job.
Is it hard to schedule to get that done? I feel like I remember some news articles about that just was hard to schedule even testing or get results.
Yeah, so that's why we kind of started talking to them right now. We haven't made a commitment yet, but our goal would be to probably do it, in after the holidays, maybe in the first quarter of the new year, just so that we're not last minute. But
Yeah, appreciate that.
it seems like it's a pretty quick turnaround. Like I said, it's not invasive and it's not taking up a lot of time, but it is expensive.
That's my question.
And we'll probably do.
Your average radon test costs about $40 in a room, in a house.
Right, so every.
Is this validated? I mean, there's what are the requirements, and radon is usually at a basement level. I mean, I don't know if we want to discuss this now, but
No, go ahead.
the basement level. And so your second floor, what are they monitoring? And it's like,
Yes.
a $10,000 unfunded mandate puts a hole, and then if they find it, what are they going to do? Are they going to put in radon pumps in all the basements? And that'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because then they got to start drilling and doing subfloor vacuum. I mean, don't get me started on radon. I was radiation safety at DuPont for 4 years. And it's not an issue in people who don't smoke and don't live in a basement. Again, it's an unfunded mandate, and are there minimum requirements that could be done to test this? Put a few units in the basement?
Well, we don't have a basement.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So we can certainly ask.
Problem solved.
We can certainly ask additional questions and I can report back next month. We just really wanted to get the ball moving to see what we were looking at.
Okay. I mean, I'd be happy to look at the regs for what that is and
Yeah,
what the,
look at Act 166.
because
Who's mandating?
It's it's in part of Act 166 from the legislature.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's kind of what they do sometimes, right? But we can certainly get more, we can get another quote, we can get more information and look at the regs. We just
Okay.
really want to get the ball moving and give you the
right.
heads up, like this is something that we need to start thinking about. We don't need to do it right now, but.
Well, the requirements for that, so when they do a basement, they say nobody is even supposed to open doors or windows so that you can get worst case scenario. And that simply wouldn't happen here where you're going to close all the doors and seal all the windows for 48 hours. That's probably how they want to test it too, is without doors and windows opening. In which case,
Well, Dan, you may not know this, but there are certain parts in this county where radon is very prevalent, and that's in Bristol.
I've got a unit in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wherever
we
there's
couldn't
grant.
sell our property without having it tested and
Mitigation.
putting in a new
Yeah.
unit.
Yeah.
And that was 20 years ago. So I think, Bristol in particular has some major issues. It's a huge gravel pit, basically. And there's issues there with real estate trade and so on. Not that we're going to be selling anything, but I think along with, lead paint, pipes, water, all that kind of stuff, I think it's time that they did take a look at it. And I understand the concerns with it. Same with asbestos. I mean, let's put that in that category too. I think all those pieces have been ignored for a long time, especially with older buildings, that we, add and change things in here and things fly around in the air. So I'm sure that's where part of that's coming from.
Yeah, no, I understand, but again, don't get me started.
Home inspectors do radon tests all the time. I can't
Right.
imagine they're $10,000.
No,
They're not.
You
They're
can go to
not, and
Home
the state will
Depot.
provide them to you for free.
For free, so.
Yeah, they do for free.
I
So
mean, if it's a validated system
Yeah.
where, the time on, time off, and it's a second guy and it's certified, then, maybe, but is that required?
is this person local?
Yeah, I think they're out of like Williston.
Okay.
We
That
did
was
get,
the other question.
we
yeah.
got a few names checked out from the Department of Health, trying to
Okay.
follow all that protocol. Like I said, we're in the early stages, just wanted to give you a heads up, and we'll certainly keep you abreast of other information.
Well, that's feedback for the legislature and other people. Okay, if you want this done, do you understand how much it's going to cost if we do have
Send
some
us,
issues, whatever?
send us a check, yeah.
Big check. Thank you.
Because again, the cost of mitigating, if
Right. If there's an issue.
that's where it gets ugly.
Well, and that's what some of the schools have been going through, up north and so on, with different issues with PCBs and all the other stuff. So I think that's just part of the precautionary tail that we have right now, unfortunately, with some of the older buildings that we have. Anything else?
Just update that now that you've ratified the contract, that the new contract's out to the teaching staff, and they'll be getting their new pay and retro pay next Friday, so we're working on that. The new software system's really handy with that, they have a great feature to help with that, so I'm excited to use that. And we'll be rolling out the budget process and keeping everyone informed and coming up with our list of assumptions and looking for feedback on certain things as we get going on that.
Any questions? Steve?
So I saw the report that was included, and these are, I'm assuming, expenses, and not revenues. So it's September, we're gonna get a quarterly report that kind of shows us where we are, like how much is we spent on budgeting and that sort of thing. I would appreciate that, because as I said, know where we stand as far as how much has been spent versus how much we have left.
I can certainly provide that for you.
That would be great.
We haven't received a whole lot of revenue yet, I can tell you that. Most of our revenue comes in December, so.
Right. But it does give us a feel for where we're at, like compared to what we budgeted.
Sure.
I would
Happy to do
appreciate
that.
Thank you.
And I know this was discussed last meeting regarding the audit. Is there anything, Rebecca, you want to add in regards to the audit report, suggestions from the group that did it?
I did give Nicole a draft of a plan of action that we haven't had a chance to review yet, but some of the things in there were things that certainly are going to be taken care of with our new software system, because we're able to scan and attach everything for record keeping. And the auditors will be given a username and password when they're doing their work, so they'll be able to have access to all that very efficiently, instead of having to pull things out of drawers and trying to find where people filed stuff.
And the two links that you have here, the documents are wholly the same as you saw before, except for they don't say draft. And all of the dates that were yellow, highlighted in yellow, and the draft documents have been updated to the new drafts. So if you read this one compared to the last one, there will be no substantive differences, but you will see that the draft is gone and the highlights are gone, and now this is official. So this, we're required to put this on our website, which we will do after this meeting. And many of you reached out with questions, which I think I did a good job answering, because I didn't get follow-up questions. But if you have more questions, I would be happy to either attempt to answer them or take them and come back with them, or invite the auditors back if they're technical in nature.
Steve?
The materials that we get, these packets, are they available online to the public?
They will be after this meeting, because this is the meeting where they become public.
I got it.
Right.
Because I had a constituent say, I can't find any of these documents, and you guys are talking about stuff and I couldn't find anything, so I
Right.
said I would ask about that.
Yes, good question. They will be live tomorrow. Actually, technically, they're live now because they're linked on this agenda to the public. So,
Okay. So regarding the audit, and only because I wasn't here last month, was that something that was accepted in that format that day, or do we still have to do that?
yes, I think it would be best practice to accept it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was only a draft.
Mhm.
So there's a couple of things that need to be revised. So,
Thank you, Rick. Next in discussion on committee membership. I had Shannon print out a list of the committees that we have met with in the past. So Facilities Committee, the Budget Committee, Policy Committee, the New Wind Board Norms and Goals Committee, and then negotiations. I'm going to start with negotiations. We have received a letter from the support staff indicating they'd like to negotiate. I told them at this meeting we'll finally decide. They were tentatively looking at 3 people for their side, which is pretty typical. And I'm going to ask Judd if he would run that.
Sure.
Thank you very, very much. And we'd really like somebody new to kind of come in with the
Oh, I
expectation.
saw, right beside you there on your right.
Well, I wasn't gonna turn in that direction. Jen.
There was a
Yeah.
little hand sticking up.
I coached her a little bit, but I think, it's one of those things where, during your first session, you do sit there a lot and go, what are they talking about? Anyway, but, and to ask those questions, and they're in a very similar situation. I'm not sure who's gonna join Elise, but I think Elise,
Oh, good, at least.
she hadn't decided yet who else was gonna be in that group, because Alan had been in it before, but he's exempt now.
And Elise was there last time, so
Yeah.
that'll be good. We'll have some familiar faces. And Alan was part of it, so that's good.
The letter came from Elise and Julie, so I'm assuming Julie will be on it?
Yeah, Elise wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So we'll
Maybe
see.
they've asked Eric.
And Eric, yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, good.
On the letter.
Thank you.
Good.
So, and it's good, it's a learning curve for all of us and every time, and it's not a bad thing, and, they, very cooperative and, easy to work with. I think, we all had pretty much the same questions, so hopefully it'll go quickly.
And if it goes as well as last time, or even
Right.
close to it, it's a great first time out group to be part of, and
And so on, so we'll let them know that we have a group and who the names are, and I will join you in that group, so it'll be the three of us. I don't wanna, I think she's still looking at three, but if it goes to four, fine, but we don't wanna overwhelm that whole situation with adding too many people, because it's not necessary usually, so. So on that committee, and obviously Nicole will join us, or business person, whatever we need at the time, but usually it goes pretty quickly that way. Or we go back with the questions to the appropriate administrator that we need to speak with. The board norms and goals committee, I added Mike to that because he worked with them. Linda,
Are you saying she is added to the committee? You didn't specify that.
I didn't want to turn yet. I wanted her to say no, so I
I
didn't
just
want to
wanted
turn.
to make sure.
Thank you, Sharon. You need to join.
Yes.
We'll train her. Then the hospital will use her.
Probably.
Yeah, they will. No, they will. Anyway, but we'll go from there. But so in looking at policy, Steve, are you willing to continue chairing that committee?
I will if I have to.
Thank you.
There's a lot of people on that committee.
Right.
And there's only one person on the budget committee, so it could be maybe shift some people.
We'll get to that one.
Okay.
I think I wanted to clarify. And if you are responsible for one committee, let me just add this now. I would suggest you meet with Nicole the week before and have the appropriate administrator there, depending on what's needed, whether it is budget or facilities or whatever the group that you're involved with. If you choose to be the chairperson. And obviously Christina, we've got Judd with the negotiations, policy. Steve has slowly stepped up for that, and you can direct that whole piece in regards to what policies need to be worked on, or anything that is suggested that might be antique and needs to be redone, or any a lot of times too, the VSBA will have recommendations of things that they think need to be reactivated, or whether it's security or whatever it is. So that's kind of what they do. Budget. I'm on that committee with Nicole. Steve, is that something you want to stay on, or do you want to?
I'll be happy to stay on it.
Okay.
Who's gonna chair it though? I mean, that's,
I don't know yet.
okay.
And then Rebecca's on that for obvious reasons. Anybody else interested in joining that? It's such a fun group. It's really important when it comes down to the budget piece. Jeb?
I would be happy to, but I would switch from facilities to there so that
Okay,
I would reduce or not increase my number of positions.
gotcha. So, and with that being the case, go ahead, Mike.
I'll go on to facilities.
Okay.
So,
We're gonna take off. And obviously any meeting, if you have a question, you're welcome to attend. I mean, that's not something you can't do, With budget, I mean, one of us can put together the agenda for that with obviously working with Nicole and Rebecca in regards to, what's important, where she's at, where she wants to report, and so on. Judd, is that something you could take on?
Being in the chair portion part of it, I could try. It's some of that formality stuff is not exactly my personality, but maybe we can teach me how to do that pre-work.
Right.
I'll probably handle it.
I think if it's Kim and I on there, we're not gonna.
Great.
Old hands.
It comes back,
Super.
it comes back, as you know.
And the reason that we have to meet the week before is because we do have to warn these agendas,
Right.
so.
That's the other formality part. And then if there's something that creeps in, the week before that, this is more pressing, we need to switch the agenda, we can do that too. The facilities, a little quieter this time around compared to last year.
Except for that roof.
Yeah, so we're gonna put Steve Parks on that as a new member. And do you see the need for anybody else in that group for now? I'll stay on it, and Nicole and Steve.
We may do cameo appearance of Dan if we're gonna do radon, talking
Yeah,
about
I was just gonna
radon.
suggest- yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay. No, I'd be,
Are you okay with
Oh,
that?
yeah.
I'd be game, yeah.
And that's,
Thank you.
that's when Mike said he would join, right? Yes.
I mean, I don't have to.
Yep,
I
no,
mean, if it's
but-
helpful.
And I probably attend.
And who's the chair for that?
Right.
I don't think she's did.
Okay.
Who's the chair?
Steve, right? He's not here.
He's gonna look at us, go, what do I do?
Yeah.
New.
I can help.
All right, so Mike, we're gonna put you on that one too. Is that something you're?
Yeah,
Just-
yeah.
And Dan, with your expertise.
So Sharon will reach out to each of the chairs here and put a standing invitation for you to come and meet with me and whoever the other appropriate administrator is the week before each meeting on the next page, so that we can warn them all.
So next we're gonna talk about times and these groups meet. And last year,
Just one question about that. Nicole, are you anticipating having those meetings during the day?
Well, we've put at the top what you did last year. I don't know if you want to
No,
keep,
no, I mean the meetings with you
Oh.
as chairs.
they have been
Okay.
during the day.
Okay.
I can flex if people's schedules don't allow that.
No, it's the, like, if the budget committee, so if I'm chairing policy, that means that I have a meeting with you the week before, which is the first Thursday, which is also the budget committee meeting. So, it was,
It doesn't have to be exactly the week, just has to be enough time for me.
Okay.
I have to warn it at least 48 hours in advance. Right.
So if we're meeting to put together an agenda, we need to be sensitive about the committee assignments, because I don't think I'm the only one that has that conflict.
Got it.
Chair versus being on another committee.
Perfect. She will work her magic.
Yeah, just add to this, meeting time.
so negotiations, we'll figure when they're ready, and it's usually, I'm gonna say like, if I recall, like 4:00, when they're done. Not have too big a gap, we can
Right,
find
right,
out.
rather than make them come back.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Makes
And-
sense. And of course, in the past, we did it with Zoom, but we don't have to do that anymore. But if weather,
Right.
warrants it, we could do that too. I mean, we've done that.
I'm probably the one with the most control over my schedule, so, I'm happy to.
I can make 4 o'clock's better, like
Okay.
mornings are harder.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And for them, they'll be working, so.
And for the facilities, the reason that we met so early was, I think it was Nick's schedule. And so if it's
Right.
possible to meet at 8:00, so we're all already here, that would be better. But we can make it 7:30 work if that's what we need to do.
The same thing is true with the budget committee, that was to accommodate
Right.
Austin's golf game essentially.
Yeah. So
Priorities.
I too enjoy, in general, especially for a long-standing commitment, rather than negotiations, which we don't know, to do it sort of one end of the day or the other, just so that I can get
Right.
to work and do my thing. So I love 8:00, but 8:30 would be fine. I'm happy to be flexible there.
So we're looking at 8:00 for facilities.
Yeah, I'd leave that up to others. I can be flexible.
You can still get out to ski.
You're right, it's still not up to my car.
So any questions about who's running what committee? I think that's the only thing. Make sure everybody has,
Refer to the facilities list.
I'm sorry, you can't hear me.
Refer to the list for
So
facilities.
facilities, Nicole, myself, Steve Parks, Dan, and Mike. Which one? And who might be in charge of that group?
I mean, if Steve will, he can. If not, I'll do it.
You're it. You're here.
Is this supposed
And
to
he
be
can
the
be,
opposite?
you know, and he can be your associate. You can say that he, because he wasn't here and he was ill, we didn't want to keep him ill. All right. Lynn, any other questions about those? Thank you.
So is that Alan would be on that? Who's the?
Usually Alan, leads by Alan.
He comes, yeah. When needed, excuse me. And there was a conversation between Nicole and I at some point with budget facilities, but I think you can carry the info from one group to another. I think that's more appropriate depending on what we're doing. With facilities being a little quieter this year than it has been with the additions and work going on. Status on that, Rebecca, are we done with checklists and all that kind of stuff?
With EEI, we still are withholding around $200,000. We have a couple items left to do. We have to sign the front office. And we have some paperwork that we're still waiting to get on. We hope to get that wrapped up because we start closing up tomorrow.
Okay.
We still do have some interest on there that we're earning because we have that kind of money. So we might be able to get a few more pieces of furniture to close things out. But we are looking to get that done in the next couple months.
So there was a plaque put together of people that were involved.
They have the plaque.
Is it done?
It's done.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I had to go back because it was, I think Suzanne's name was spelled wrong or whatever.
Yeah, they do have that in their possession, so
Okay.
we'll get them down here to install that as well. So yeah, I'm getting a couple sign-offs from other vendors to make sure everyone's been paid before we pay them in full.
Okay.
On a side note, we have submitted an application for a solar rebate on the solar panels. And we're hoping to get about $115,000, and there's a fee for the paperwork and all that. Through the legal part of it is about $8,000, so we should net around $106,000. Not sure how quickly that comes. It's kind of a new program, and we're kind of waiting on the feds for that, but everything's been submitted.
Nice. Any questions? So now, final audit, any questions from anybody from last meeting? Again, I apologize if there were some then, and hopefully they got answered. We need a motion to accept the
I
audit
think
for
so.
2023? No,
Yes.
23.
You got it.
And from what Nicole's already told me is that we're presently starting to gather information, so one for 24. So we're moving on that one too. Be the same audit group?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll need a motion to accept the 2023 audit as presented. Dan, second? Judge, thank you. And seeing no other questions, please either raise your hand or say aye if you agree with it and accept it as is. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Anybody opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you. So next is our leasing options.
Hope you enjoy this.
Come on up.
Got some packs of handouts, I'll hand those out. Next box. That'd be great.
These are good. Yeah.
Jim?
Come join us. Good. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, I appreciate it.
It's pretty antique.
So I provided Renee some information from the wish list that Nicole shared last month at the board meeting. And kind of asked her to talk about how the leasing works through her company. A lot of schools and my colleagues have used this program before, so we thought it'd be a good idea to just bring that to the table for everybody. And I did ask her to break it down into two maybe examples. One about maybe getting the fleet stuff that we needed, and then one kind of talking about the overall of it. So I'll turn it over to Renee and let her.
Okay, thanks. So my name is Renee Pichet. I'm with Municipal Leasing Consultants. We're headquartered in Grand Isle, Vermont. I started the company 30 years ago. My background is in banking. Prior to that, doing this type of financing right out of college. So this product has been around for over 40 years, 45 years approximately. So tax exempt, it's basically called tax exempt lease purchase financing. So, or TELP financing, it's an alternative to bonding for essential capital equipment. So it was developed as an alternative because many municipalities couldn't keep up with paying cash. They couldn't keep up with, they couldn't get bonds approved, and the length of time it takes to put a bond together. So this type of financing is used for all types of capital replacement equipment. So many of you, I just wanted to bring this little point up. Many of you may be familiar with a true lease or lease rental. You know, that's not what this is. This is financing or a loan to acquire and own the equipment. So although it's called a lease purchase, it's leasing to own. So I just want to clear that up because some people think of leasing and they say, oh yeah, it's a rental. I could purchase it for a balloon payment at the expiration or fair market value like a car. That's not what this is. This is equal payments of interest and principal at a fixed interest rate, and then you own the equipment at the expiration of the term. So who qualifies for this type of financing? Any type of state or municipality, from state agencies to local municipalities to, of course, school districts, even volunteer fire companies, sometimes even 501c3 entities, depending on how it's structured, water, sewer, you name it. So a lot of types of municipalities, higher education. So I just wanted to bring that up. All types of people use this type of financing. So what can be financed? Really any type of essential equipment from 30,000, even smaller, but 30,000 up to 30 million. A lot of what this is used for is replacement vehicles, school buses. Now we're getting into electric vehicles, which it'll be coming down the line. In certain states, it's already mandates for in the next 5 to 10 years, fleets have to be converted to electric. So we're doing electric vehicles. And I mentioned earlier to Kim that we were just at the Renewable Energy Conference and so also what's financed with this is any type of energy efficiency project. I know that this district has done an energy performance contract, and I think you said EEI. Well, EEI, we do a lot of their financings. They had actually brought me this project years ago, but you went through the bond bank, which is the bond bank is great for a lot of capital replacement, and depending on the timing, your bond is put in with a bunch of other bonds. The only thing that's more of an advantage for a lease purchase is you could prepay them. So now that interest rates are higher, a year ago, rates were in the 1.5%. Now they're in the high 3s to low 4s. Even higher if you're going to go out to 20 years, because we can go out from anywhere from say a 3-year is typically the minimum size term that we like to finance for, and that's the useful life of the asset is what we tie the term to. So 3 to 20 years. Your payments can start in advance when you borrow the money, or you can have it in arrears out to 1 year out. And they could be annual, semi-annually, quarterly, or monthly payments. Typically, your best bet would be to do an annual payment unless depending on where you are in your fiscal year and your budgeting. But it's very flexible. So if you say, Renee, I only have X amount available in this budget, or I don't want to make a payment till next budget, you could do that. It's very, very flexible. So technology is another area, any type of technology, really anything. We've done portable turf for UVM, we've done snow groomers, we've done musical instruments. So I see in your wish list, there's lots of, your entity is similar to, in other states, BOCES, Board of Educational Services, or a VOTAC in some states. So I haven't worked with one of your entities in the past. I know you mentioned there's 4 others within the state, but we do a ton with the supervisory unions, a ton with all the K through 12s, colleges, towns, cities, all the major cities in the state. So what else? So you wanted the expiration, I mentioned that. They say $1, but technically you make equal payments. With LED lighting, I know you've done a lot, but in the future, just keep that in mind if there's other improvements, energy upgrades. You mentioned a roof can be financed in this type of financing. The banks like to incorporate that with other assets, but what these types of financings have is an annual appropriation clause that's mandated nationwide that basically says that you plan on appropriating in future fiscal years to appropriate for that payment. So it's an annual renewable contract, although you enter into a 3 or 5 or 10, 20-year financing, you plan on appropriating for future fiscal years. So this only requires your governing body's approval, where a bond, you need voter approval. So there's some distinctions. It's a little easier sometimes to get a municipal lease done, and it's quicker. A lease purchase can be put together within 30 days, where a bond takes months. Also, I wanted to factor in the misconception years ago was that the bond rates and the lease rates were far, maybe 100 basis points different. But the same investors, banks, are buying both tax-exempt leases and bonds. So what we do on every project that we come across, we first ask the municipality. They may come to us for one piece of equipment, like a dump truck or a school bus, and we say, well, why don't the larger municipalities do this? They take their wish list from all their departments, and then they combine it. One, that'll get you a better interest rate, and 2, versus financing a $30,000 piece of equipment. And then also, under that master lease, you don't have to borrow it all at the same time, but if you want to, you could borrow it all at the same time, and then you would have separate schedules for each asset or each equipment. So, you don't want to finance, some of the assets years ago, people were buying an ambulance or a computer system and putting in a bond that's 20 years. Well, you want to have it tied to the useful life of the asset. So we recommend, that you combine your purchases and have separate, amortization schedules or payment schedules based on specific assets or equipment that you want to borrow for. And what happens is when we go to do the borrowing, whether it's one piece of equipment or multiple pieces of equipment, that total typically is put into, unless it's delivered right then and there, where you say, yes, I accept that, and I want you to wire the money to, the bank will wire the funds to that XYZ vendor, say EI, and then they pay their subcontractors. But that money is put into an escrow account, which is an account held by the bank, because you can't send you the money. And then that allows you to accept the equipment when you are ready to pay for it. And you sign off on a payment request and escrow disbursement from that escrow account. And that triggers, it comes to, if you're working with me, it comes to my office. We make sure everything's, especially the motor, if it's a motor vehicle, make sure the liens on the motor vehicle paperwork, your insurance is all, there's a certificate of insurance put in place for that piece of equipment. And the bank will be listed as additional insured on that equipment till it's paid off. So then you control all the disbursements from that account. But the rate is fixed when you borrow that money. Then you can prepay. There is a prepayment penalty, typically between 1% and 2%, or some of the banks don't have any. You can't prepay for, say, if it's a 10 or 15 year deal, 3 or 5 years, and then no prepayment after that. they want to recoup their investment. So we work with banks of all sizes and shapes throughout the country. Many banks do not offer this type of financing. So I'm out there educating smaller community banks where if they have customers, they'll refer to us to help them service their customers so they don't lose their deposits. If they do this type of financing, I don't know if there's any in the state of Vermont. Well, M&T's now in the state. That's one bank that's new to the state. But there's, like Chittenden Peoples years ago used to refer them to community bank. They know even the bond bank knows us. They've known us for years. They refer us business. We refer them business. So it's all, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. We do it primarily in the Northeast, but we do business all over the country too, depending on if it's a vendor relationship we have that's selling technology, for example, or software or whatever it may be. So what else? You will get a legal opinion. So your board resolution will authorize you to purchase the equipment and authorize a financing under a lease purchase. We only require a validity opinion, not a tax opinion like you would with a bond issue. And all the attorneys, I just ran into a bunch of them at this conference, are familiar with what we do. We work with them, throughout the state. And so it's not like, even though this is a product that's really new to a lot of municipalities, it's been around for a long time. And so I'm out there just trying to educate that this is a financing option that may be an option for you in the future for some, the vehicles or anything else you may have. So I went over a lot. So I don't know if I hit everything, but if you have any questions after, or you ask me any questions right now, if you have any.
So this is just an initial sort of get to know the product meeting. And then depending on how this discussion goes, the next step would be for Becca and I to come with an actual proposal at some point to talk about.
Well, could you maybe just talk a little bit about, with the roof situation, what would be the benefits of working with you versus getting a bond from your perspective?
Well, if you tied it into other equipment, see, a lot of the banks, like if it's, $1 million or more, some of our banks are big and they like larger transactions. So they'll go out longer term, they'll go out 20 years or maybe even longer if you want to go out longer, 25 years. But the advantage is, you can compare bond rates to lease rates and see where, the interest rates come out. And then also, it's quicker, of course, like I mentioned, but also add in the issuance cost. I mean, going through the bond bank, the issuance costs are combined with all municipalities. So that's a good deal for that route, if you're going that route for, projects. The energy performance projects, the statute in Vermont and all the states across the country incorporate lease purchase because they're paid from the energy savings. So it's not really, they want you to finance through a lease purchase, but some do a bond, depending on the municipality. And then, like I said, the bond bank's great. I would say the bond bank's going to be probably 25 to 50 basis points lower than what we could provide. So, shop your rates, they probably, but for the other equipment, I mean, the roof, like I said, we can incorporate it if you want us to, like we do other energy efficiency measures, LED lighting, all kinds of stuff. But it's totally up to you. So we go out to, like I said, we go out to multiple banks based on the parameters of each transaction, get the best interest rate, send you a proposal with the terms that you're possibly looking at considering. Because we usually, some people are in budget stages, some people have the equipment already. They're like, I need you to finance this tomorrow. So it's all in different stages. And but the banks are very, the rates are very competitive. If you went to your, like at your local bank, we could, of course, beat them on rate. But I don't know if, like I said, there's not a lot of banks in the state of Vermont that do this. They're larger, more national banks. Yeah, but we shop them all. I mean, there's a bank up in Maine that we use, a small community bank up there for smaller projects and shorter term. Some of the banks don't feel comfortable yet going long term. So a lot of our projects need to go out longer because of the payback of projects or the fire trucks or some of the bigger ticket items.
Yeah, so the rate of the interest rate, whatever you would call that,
Yeah.
is fixed at the time when it's issued.
Yeah.
And which way do you see them going right now? Do you think, is there a sense of urgency to get these now, or do you think they're gonna go down?
Good question. If you ask me, they were, the Fed cut rates about a month ago. But about a week and a half ago, they jumped 30 basis points. So as of today, I would say, as I mentioned to Rebecca, I would wait after the election because I think rates are going to come back down again. I mean, I could throw, just for sake of discussion, even short-term rates were in the 4.75 range. I mean, that's on the vehicles, the smaller portion, but I mean, like I said, last summer, we were doing rates at 1.25, 1.5 fixed rate for 10, 15 years. It was crazy. And we refinanced a lot of our leases that we already had out there. So I would say, if you need it right now, you have no option, you have to, but if you can wait, and I keep track of the rates on a daily basis. I can, keep in contact with you and just to give you an idea where rates are. But, if you have an emergency purchase, that's different. But it sounds like the roof is pretty critical, but, we can wait a little bit.
Steve, you have a question?
So don't take this the wrong way, don't take it personal.
No, I
know
won't.
it's gonna sound combative. I taught personal finance for many years. Leasing is always the worst way to go as far as like cars and stuff like that. So I'm gonna need some help with that. The second thing is, you're helping us set up a loan with a bank with a rate. So I understand the relationship with the bank. To put it bluntly, how do you make your money here?
The bank.
Because
The
it's.
bank pays me. Well, the bank, I work with lots of banks. We're originators and bring them tons of business. So,
So you're like a headhunter for the bank and the bank pays you? We don't pay you?
no, the bank pays me.
Okay.
And just to clarify, that's why I wanted to bring up the leasing, because many people are used to leasing as a rental or car lease or copier lease or for municipalities years ago, John Deere tractors or, so it's a misconception. Those were commercial rates because those, typically those vendors that were selling that equipment were offering leasing to help sell their equipment. This is a third-party financing. And what those banks, those vendors that are selling equipment, I don't care if it's Ford Motor Credit or whoever it may be, they can't borrow tax exempt. The banks they get the tax benefit to either do a bond or a lease. They get the tax write-off. So they can lower their interest rates to municipalities because of that fact. And, some of them have a bank qualified or a non-bank qualified up to 10 million. You're a small municipality, but when we're working with the city of Burlington, for example, they issue a lot. And at the end of the year, each bank has a certain percentage of their portfolio that they can book into what they call bank qualified investments. I know it's confusing, sorry. But so up to 10 million. And then once it goes over 10 million, then the banks have to charge, I don't care if it's a bond or lease, they charge, if they've already met that, the larger your bank, the more room you have. I think it's 2% of their portfolio in these tax exempt investments, where they won't get the same benefit, so they have to raise their interest rate to you. So if you're talking a big, all the major cities utilize this financing. So, but for smaller communities, you don't have to worry about that. But getting back to the rental versus, think of it as a loan, a third-party financing arrangement. You go out and pick whatever equipment you want from whatever vendors you want, and then you come to do the financing separately. So it's, you own the equipment, it's not, you make equal payments, like I said, and the bank has a lien on the equipment till you pay it off, whether it's a vehicle or a piece of equipment. You hold title to it. So it's, think of it as a conditional sales, if you're in financing, years ago, conditional sales agreements or bank loans, where it's not a lease. That, I know it's confusing because it's called tax exempt lease purchase, but it's a lease to purchase to own. So that's where the banks can offer you the lower interest rates, where a commercial company can't.
So once the financing is set up, once the arrangement has been made with the bank, your part of the process ends and you're not involved anymore.
No.
Okay.
We are still involved. Part of what we do for our banks is make sure all the escrow disbursements go smoothly, make sure the motor vehicle paperwork gets, filled out properly with the motor vehicle, with the vendor you're choosing, because we don't want you to register it, because a lot of them go register vehicles without the lien holder, then we have to go back through. But insurance, most of our supervisory unions or school districts say, Renee, or not me, but somebody else, go contact my insurance company. I gave them a heads up, you'll be calling to add this piece of equipment. So we handle, that's part of why we have a good reputation, I think, and is because we handle all aspects of the financing from start to finish. We can draft a board resolution for you. We work with your attorney. Like I said, we do all that. Even after the fact, customers are calling us every day, a bus, this bus has been paid off, we never got our lien release, or all kinds of stuff. But, that's what the banks appreciate, and then also our customers appreciate, because they know if we have a problem, or customers, and I gave Rebecca and Nicole a list of, only 5 or 6 customers, but we have hundreds throughout the state. So any municipality, I think, if you want more list or more contacts, just to, for references, if you want to. But we're unique in what we do. People ask, what other companies are like you? Not very many. I mean, I was on the board of directors of our industry. I love this product. I love the energy world too. So I won't keep you any longer, but any other questions?
So Nicole has a list of, groups in the area that are using it,
Well, I mean,
schools and municipalities.
yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Okay,
all the
thank you.
major, like City of Barry,
Okay.
Town of Barry, Rutland, City of Rutland, all the major big cities.
Thank
But we put Rutland, and she should have probably searched around this area. But Rutland, Northeast Supervisory, Springfield School District, Champaign Valley School District, White River Union District, Troy Town School District, some are, the northern, but we can get you more in this geographic region.
Yeah, I think that was my question. The other question is, and you talked about this in regards to the interest rate. For instance, okay, we wait a little bit after the election, and then the rates go down, and we've already negotiated something. Is that something we can renegotiate you with the interest rate, or is it just fixed at that point?
It's fixed when you go to borrow.
Okay.
But with these energy,
Packages,
I know
yeah.
these energy projects, because there's lots of
Rebates,
with
things
the
like that.
Inflation
Yeah.
Reduction Act, it's all going to be financed with tax exempt leases and bonds. We do bonds too, by the way.
Okay.
My banks do bonds. So some of our projects, if it's a firehouse, it's going to be done as a bond.
Right.
But so even the roof can be done as a bond,
Right.
if you don't want to go through the bond bank. It's a privately placed bond, not a public offer. So public offers, as you probably all know, it's rated, it's got issuance cost, disclosure, all that. If you do a privately placed bond or lease, it's with one bank. But yeah, it's really energy, because there's a lot of great tax and free money
Right.
for all kinds of, like I said, solar, wind. We're doing a lot of that part of the business now. But we've done about 850, maybe more, 850 million in just energy projects. We've done over $1 billion of capital equipment projects. I mean, a lot of projects that's over 30 years. But it sounds like a lot. But if you have any questions about what I went over with you, or I could come back at any time, but I appreciate the time, and you all have my email, so, or my phone call, feel free to reach out and.
Thank you. for taking the
Thank
time.
you.
Very
Because it is a
informative.
little confusing, especially if you've never done it before.
Yeah.
So, but I think, talking to some of your neighbors,
Sure.
that have done it will, give you some
It's
ideas.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Nadia.
Thanks,
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Safe drive.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. So the bond piece, that's kind of interesting too. I mean, do we have to go to the voters?
Right, so,
My question.
right, so we're gonna be looking at some solution, right,
Right.
to both
Exactly.
a vehicle fleet and a roof, and I'm hoping some number of things off of the list of equipment. We can go completely 100% one-way bond, completely 100% the other way, lease to own, or we could do a mixture, something in a bond, and I'm not in a position tonight to offer you a recommendation. But before we move forward, I wanted you to hear about this solution, because it was actually new to me too. I'm used to either you pay for the thing or you get a bond. And so this is a third option, which is intriguing,
Definitely.
right?
Any questions?
It wasn't
Yeah,
municipal or tax exempt, but I worked for a trucking company that bought a lot of its equipment doing this exact thing. And I never knew exactly what it was called, but now hearing it, it's like, oh, it's so, he didn't get exactly the sweet 1.5%
Right.
because it wasn't municipal, but it is a common way of doing it. And there was that thing where at the end, your last payment's $1, so you effectively buy it for $1, but obviously you've been making payments all the way over.
And for us, we're never going to have the capital, just the cash on hand to buy any of this stuff. So really, the only way forward with our current budget, and it's not going to change dramatically, is to figure out some financing solution, right?
So in conversation with, excuse me, Steve, I'll get back to you, with Nicole earlier this evening was obviously the roof, 2 more additional vans for transporting students. Just a quick list, 2 short buses. The big bus has died or will be soon. And then 2 multi-purpose vehicles for, I would say, transfer of, are you saying equipment, that type of thing?
Yeah, we need,
Purpose.
I don't have the list in front of me, so Becca, help me out, but I know we need at least a truck,
Right.
because our dump truck is probably at the end of life too. We don't think it's going to pass inspection. We'll see. Our red van and blue van are definitely dead. Both are one short bus already died, and then the other one is the one we just described that we would have to spend something like 10 grand on to fix. And our big bus died. And so now of our entire fleet, we're down to our 2 brand new vans. That's what we have.
And they work.
Right. They are brand new.
And we still are using the blue and the red ones. It's
Right.
interesting because
Yeah.
some of, we'll say, we call them salt and pepper, right?
Yeah.
You can take pepper. Oh, can I have the blue van? My kids are a little messy.
Yeah.
And we intend on keeping those as long as they're inspectable to use for those like transporting
Right.
chainsaws or gasoline tanks or
Right.
for Alan to run around with.
But I don't want them going out of town with kids in them,
No.
because we've had to rescue kids more times than I would like to do that again.
So
Yeah.
currently we have bus 3, which is still operational, but once again is like a 2008. And then bus 86 is the larger
86.
bus. That's being used mostly by the Natural Resource Management group right now, when they go to Wright Park or up to the Sugar House or something like that.
Right.
And we were accustomed to having 2 larger buses and 3 smaller buses. So it's kind of putting a little dent in the transportation. Scheduling is becoming a little challenging.
Yeah, and we used to be able to kind of rely on Betcha, but now Betcha has, for real costs, is so expensive that it's cost prohibitive. And it's not that it's their real cost, their cost of their drivers, the cost of their gas. It's like $1,000 to use them, and we just can't do it. So.
So one of the other pieces that you may not be aware of is faculty and staff have to take a drive-in qualification course. And I don't know where it's offered or how many
Yeah.
times a year, but
So we're doing, just to drive the vans, you don't have to, you just have to have a driver's license. But to drive the short buses or to drive the big bus you have to have a CDL. The short buses, you take a class. And we're actually looking at bringing that class to us rather than send people out, because I'd really like all of the teachers to have that license. But there's no point doing it until we have a vehicle for them to drive. So that's,
And when we talk about buses, right now, especially the two smaller buses, they would definitely go with what you see around town, like the white multifunctional activity buses. And we're able to do that because we're not transporting kids to and from their homes. So we don't have routes, these would just be for activities, so we can save a little money on that. They don't have to have the lights and they're still safe and people use them, but we don't have to worry about that additional expense and things breaking.
So those are like the ones that the college uses. Yeah.
And ACSD has one as well, that they use for one of their programs, so there's a little cost saving there.
Steve,
So I'm of the opinion, or right now, you're gonna have to convince me, it's too good to be true in that category. And I'm worried about, there's a reason we take bonds in front of voters. And we are expensive. And if this is gonna incur additional debt, which we incur a lot, we know we have needs, we always have needs, we are always going to have needs. If we're talking about something like the roof and, multi-hundreds of thousands up to $1 million with a bond and not taking it in front of the voter, that makes me skeptical. Not just nervous, but skeptical of whether we can do that. I don't disbelieve her. I believe she is telling us the truth. From the standpoint of our responsibility as a board, I'm very hesitant to do that, to take on a debt without going in front of the voters to see what it is. Because thank goodness we got the $8 million bond. We're gonna keep asking, and I know with the tax rates and what has been happening, voters are getting a lot more skeptical. And this would feel like, not saying that we are doing it, this would feel like going behind their backs. And so those are reservations that I have right now. So I'm not saying don't do this, just saying I'm gonna.
Oh, we haven't done it.
But I'm saying I'm gonna have to be convinced if we go this route.
Is it the sort of thing, there's nothing precluding us from going before the public, even if this does end up being a better thing for numbers wise, more favorable that way. There's nothing in this package that would say that we can't say, okay, great. Because I totally agree with you. This is the town's school, this is, right? They should know, they should be apprised, they should.
Where would that approval be sought? How, we'd have to have an election for that, or?
I mean, bonds
How's
have
that?
to go on ballots.
you go to ballot.
Okay.
So this would be like passing a bond, though we may have to look at what the language would be, or we might be forging new territory here. Because if she says we
Okay.
don't have to go before the voters, maybe people don't do this. But
Because if you look at what just happened in Addison, we had a bond, and then they had a petition, and it went to a vote. Nobody went except the people who wanted to get rid of it, and now it's gone. And, again, the backlash, as you mentioned, people appreciate what we're doing here, but there will be a limit, I think. And somehow gaining their approval would be important.
Well, I think the other part of it too is we're coming out of one bond that's going to be finished. And if there is a time period after the election, whatever, where we, put that word out that, here's our wish list, but at the same time, we want to be respectful of tax increases and so on. So if we have to wait for part of it, educating the public on the condition of the roof and North Campus and so on, I think it's less of a blow, but at the same time, we're showing respect to the public and what's going on right now. So I think the timing is essential, post-election. The wish list is but there's also other ways to get some of the things on the wish list, not necessarily the vehicles, but to be able to find other means of grant funding and so on. And I think showing the public that we're willing to look at grants, for instance, that these 2 vehicles that we just got were through a grant. I think they're like, really? There's money out there. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're going to be cautious about what we ask for and understand that the pocketbooks are pretty tight right now. You're just being respectful of it. I think, not doing it all at once. I mean, like you said, people.
It would, again, it would be interesting. I think one of the issues with the Addison Town Hall and the downvote on that is people didn't understand what it was going to cost them.
Right.
And even approaching the board saying, can you tell people? They were hesitant. But, up or down a few bucks because of interest rates, how much is it going to cost your average homeowner?
Right.
And I think by having this bond paid off, if we could say what the difference in the rate would be per student or something like that and show that it's not that much over the life of the bond, I'd probably be able to gain approval, but I, again, still probably want to see it.
Well, I think too, knowing that the bond just passed, inviting people to come in and say, would you like to see where your money went? And making sure that they get an opportunity to do that, which we do most of the time in the spring for the open house. And they're very, very happy. And the feedback appears to be like, wow, that's a really, really nice facility. The comments that was made, some of the outside committees that are around the county in regards to the equipment that's coming in, how we got the money to do it. And it didn't necessarily come out of the original proposed school budgets. And the creativity that involves with that piece and where it's going to go. How successful is our product, which is the students, going to be? And I know that's my selling point with people when they see, the Facebook or any other internet source of what's that piece of equipment? What's it for? Where are they going to go? What kind of job can they get? Can they stay in the state? Yes, they can work at Husky or wherever it is. Then it gives them a feeling of, my son or daughter is going to be able to stay here and work in a very, very lucrative business, whether it's an internship to become a plumber or whatever it is. We just need to talk a little bit more about those opportunities here. And I think that alone sells this institution. I mean, people love this institution. And on that note, I'm going to add, we have a visitor coming the end of the month. Nicole and other superintendents and other women who own businesses in the town, and I went to a meeting with the National Bank of Middlebury spring. I think it was in the spring. Anyway,
This fall.
it was?
Pretty sure.
Who's it
Who
trying?
knows?
Anyway, I don't know. I think it was a while. It was before the summer.
Yeah.
So anyway, but and the president of UVM hospital came, and basically it was a conversation he had with everybody that was there, and he was very interested in the program the LNA program we have, and the phlebotomy program, and that also came out in our presentation to the Green Mountain Healthcare Board. Those were initiatives that were listed, and it got a tremendous amount of compliment from the Green Mountain Healthcare Board, which a lot of the other hospitals didn't receive, but Porter did, and he wants to come and visit. We kind of have an entourage. I think Joyce put together about 11 people now, and they'll meet with the students in
They're
that
going to meet,
program.
right, they're going to meet with their medical professions students. And then we're going to have a sort of a meet and greet down in the Glass Onion where we can show off what we do here. And then we're going to have a takeaway, how can the hospitals help? How can you help us get kids for you, right?
Right, along in that list of people visiting, also include a couple legislators.
Mhm.
We thought that was an important piece of the pie too, in the area. And when he saw how successful our budget presentation was to the Green Mountain Healthcare Board, it was very clear that our accepted budget was a little different than UVM and Central Vermont. And we know that, and I thought it was very well done. But again, to sit and take, Patricia Hannaford Career Center and say, this is the route that we represent, and the networking that's going on in Middlebury and with Porter and so on, and the phlebotomy program. I mentioned to him the other day that I said, by the way, our registrar is also our phlebotomist a couple of days a week. And he was like, really? I didn't know that. Those types of connections, along with the wellness program that Kelly's group is working with, they're going to be putting out 600 plants in the spring to be given away to the employee. Yeah, they upped it from 400 last year to give to the employees over there. And there's 350 support employees at Porter right now, and they've just finished their contract also. But just to do, and the wellness program is, going to be a week-long event. Actually, it's becoming all year that they're doing
Yeah, they just got a silver award for their last
for in taking care of it. And one of the pieces that we got a look at our board meeting at the hospital last month was a safety response piece. So that when something happens in the emergency room or with, a death and say OBGYN or whatever it is, how they respond to support the staff and so on. And I shared that with Nicole, might come into a presentation. It's just another piece that the community can use when things like that happen. And, excuse me? Yeah. She's on it. I saw her name on it.
Oh.
Anyway, I saw your name on it. But anyway, so again, working together with other people. There's also grant money and so on available. The auxiliary for the hospital has a program now where if a student from here wants to go on and get their RN, there's money there. So it's going to work for all the people in the area to try and stay here and to work here and to take that workforce. We talked about when Tiffany was here, Tiffany loved that any other certification programs, and I'm sure that's going to come up at that conversation of that we could offer here for our students to get trained and to hopefully work at Porter and so on. So it's a lot of that going on right now. I think it's really important that we kind of share that information. That supports our budget. It supports our community. I think all those things are big factors. There's if you guys are familiar with the open door clinic that's behind the hospital, there's 2 trailers out there. They just got a serious amount of money for that van that they take around, and they go to all the orchards and so on and do a lot of treating with the migrant workers and so on. And so there's a lot of little programs like that that are going on that can help support all the things that we're doing here.
Great.
So anyway, we'll give you the report after that visit. Any other comments on anything that we talked about? Any information that you're not seeing that you'd like to know about? I did overhear Steve, you asking for a budget quarterly report, which we have not seen for a while, and I agree that I think that's something, especially as we build the budget and what goes on. I think that's an important piece to ask for now. Anything else? Anybody needs any information before we go into executive session? So I will need a motion to do that. Yeah. No, there's nobody online. So, but any public comment from here? Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no, I was going to do your.
Which thing?
You said you wanted some.
You want a motion? Gotcha. Go ahead. Chad?
Oh, the,
Steve was making the
Mike's making the motion to go into executive session.
Who's on
motion. I know Steve making it, that's why I don't.
Okay. We have a lot of eager.
So you need to do the whole thing.
Yeah, whoever's making it needs to read it.
Pertaining to VSA, S313A3, appointment, employment, or evaluation of a public officer or employee. You have all that? Okay, so that's the motion, and Judd,
seconded.
thank you. All right, any questions? No, all those in favor of going into executive session?
Right?
Aye. Anybody opposed? Seeing none? It is what?
6:29.
29, thank you, Lynn.
So we got a minute.
We also have to have somebody take some